In this video, we're going to go over uptime as it relates to customer agreements and customer agreement lines. It is also worth noting that the uptime methodology that works for customer agreements and customer agreement lines works the exact same for vendor agreements and vendor agreement lines as well. When booking your uptime periods, which is oftentimes the most important part of getting to an accurate uptime report, you need to define your coverage hours on your customer agreement lines, which are going to look up to business hours within the platform, which is where we can define our hours of coverage per day, the time zone, and the number of days covered. So in this case, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've also defined the equipment for which we are servicing. This is a full service agreement. And I can go into our customer agreement line, and so I'll click edit here. Or I could click into the record page. Either way will work. And I can see my uptime information here. These three fields are very important. We have our uptime period type, which is weekly or monthly. And we have our uptime period status, which will be enabled or disabled. Uptime period start date only comes into play if we are doing an uptime period of weekly. Many uptime agreements are set monthly, in which case the uptime period start day is going to be the beginning day of the month, not the day of the week. When we have enabled our uptime period status, this is then going to create our uptime periods. And so we can view those uptime periods here. And we can see that we have created those uptime periods, in this case for every month of this agreement. And we have our total uptime hours, our uptime coverage hours, which is our hours of coverage on that Monday through Friday on the 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is also worth noting that in those coverage hours, you can also define your holidays, so in which case holidays would not be included in your coverage hours. This is going to show our total down hours on a 24-hour clock. This is going to show our total down hours on our coverage hours clock that Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then this is going to also calculate our overall uptime percent and our coverage time uptime percent within this period. And so we can see this here. I can even open this up and also go view my downtime events, and this will show me my down hours and my coverage hours, and I can even see the service request this downtime event was related to. And this is how I would create and view my uptime periods. I can also view that same information again if I go into my customer agreement line. In here I can see that same information about my uptime period, and I can go in here and see all of my uptime periods that have been created. I do prefer to look at this from my view here, where I can see all of my uptime periods directly against my customer agreement line in a formatted manner. I can also run reports using my customer agreement lines and customer agreement line logs in order to specify and view my overall uptime report trended. And these reports are really powerful. I can see my overall uptime percentage, not just my downtime. And I can see my uptime percentage for this unit, for this customer. I can click into this event and I can see the details of this event. I can see the hours, the downtime impacted just like I could before, but I can also see my service request and the subject of this service request, and I can pull in additional fields from the customer or from the equipment or from the service request and the service event that resulted in this downtime event with these downtime hours. And so in this report, I could roll up my down hours, my downtime, my uptime, my 24-hour uptime, my coverage uptime, and I could even compare my 24-hour uptime clock to my coverage hours uptime clock when I have those coverage hours defined. It is also worth noting if I change anything on that customer agreement line, such as I disable the uptime status and then re-enable it, it's going to re-batch over those periods and recreate those uptime logs, and then go find any down events that have been associated to that customer agreement line and log those events as well. So if I need to, or if I even enable it after I've already started the customer agreement line, it will automatically link up those down events to any customer agreement lines that are associated to the service request. And again, this is going to work in the same way with vendor agreements and vendor agreement lines, where you can enable those uptime periods, and it'll automatically create those uptime periods in order to create the logs in order to capture your downtime against and get to an accurate uptime report that spans customers, which spans systems across multiple time zones, which is one of the biggest challenges with uptime reports, is really being able to get an accurate uptime report on those coverage hours amongst units that are crossing and spanning multiple time zones. But this methodology of uptime tracking does allow you to run this type of report. Thank you very much.